Sarah and her young son Josh are visiting a playground in Frankfurt, Germany, when she hears a helicopter flying overhead. Abruptly, she begins to experience flashbacks of her time spent in Afghanistan during an operation. She pushes a guy who crashes into her. She effortlessly defeats him by striking him in the face. She leaves the man and apologizes after seeing her son and immediately realizing what she's doing. A few years later, Sarah receives a notification on her phone and brings her son along for a work appointment. After hearing it, the sender identifies himself as an investigative journalist who is contacting because he has fresh information about her ordeal in Afghanistan. He continues by saying that he has emailed her video proof of what he is discussing and will be waiting for her response after she has finished watching it. Sarah looks around and discovers that her son is absent when she begins watching the movie, but finds nothing to understand. Fortunately, Josh is just standing motionless in a corner when she panics. Because she doesn't want to lose him, she rushes to him and tells him to stick by her side no matter what. They reach the American consulate a few minutes later. She reportedly received a job offer from a security company in the United States and plans to move there to begin work and bring her son closer to his father's family, who was also an American who was killed in an operation in Afghanistan. She still tries to make ends meet, even though she hasn't fully healed from the loss. Sarah needs to take Josh to a children's area to play for a short while she waits in the hallway for their flight number to be called. When they eventually do, Sarah dashes back to pick up her son, but she doesn't see Josh at the playground. She calls his name and begins to look about, but nothing comes up. She reports the event to the security staff, stating that her son may be inside one of the offices, as she is now beginning to lose herself. She is sent to Mr. Kink, the head of regional security, since the security crew lacks authorization to check the rooms. She checks other rooms after he opens the offices, but she is still unable to locate her kid. She starts crying and feels guilty for abandoning him for those little moments. To make her relax, Mr. Kink tells her a story about his own young daughter and assures her that they will assist in finding her son. After that, an entire security crew is dispatched to search the entire building for the child, but they are unsuccessful. Sarah believes that a woman and a man carrying a bag may be connected to her son's disappearance. Kink refuses to open the door behind her, claiming it's a high-security location, despite her pleas. He brings her to his office, where he thanks her for her service and discovers that she is a veteran after looking over her resume. One of the security guards, Donovan, informs Sarah that she entered the facility by herself this morning. Sarah is certain that she brought her son with her, and she maintains that it is a lie. Only her name appears on the list of persons who checked in for the day, which Donovan provides her. She questions the accuracy of the list, pointing out that her son played in the hallway and even had conversations with him, the security guard, although he disputes this. She claims that anything might have been captured by the security camera, but Donovan claims to have checked and that it was only her entering the embassy. She is subsequently compelled to report her missing child to the German police, who inform her that they have already been notified. However, because the consulate is regarded as an extraterritorial building and the Germans lack jurisdiction to enter, the German police are not permitted to enter. She must leave the building for the time being, and they will resolve the matter. Sarah declines, pointing out that she won't be able to locate her kid after leaving and won't be permitted to return. After realizing there is no way to continue the conversation, Sarah hangs up the phone and tries to fight her way out of the office, but Kench tackles her to the ground. Sarah is left with Donovan after being made to sit down and wait for the German police to take her from the embassy. However, he quickly answers a phone. Sarah grabs the chance, opens the door, and picks the lock to go out. She climbs out the window and tries to jump to the other side, but falls to the ground in order to avoid being apprehended by the building security. She enters the building through a different path and enters a guest room after breaking in through a vent. She discovers Irina there, a Russian woman detained there as a political exile. Irina promises to aid Sarah in exchange for help leaving the building after realizing that she can maneuver around it without getting detected. Deborah, the consulate general, notices that Sarah is wandering around the building. The general wants her detained right away after seeing her paperwork, but Kink says it isn't required. He claims that arresting her would seriously harm her military reputation and that he will take care of it himself. The two people carrying a bag earlier are Sarah's only suspicions, as she concludes that the only method to sneak someone out of the building would be through a warehouse inside the building. To make it easier for them to travel throughout the building, she is able to remove a guard and sees his keycard. Sarah discovers that one of the storage containers has a sign that resembles the one from the bag she saw the guys from the last exchange. When she opens the bag after breaking the lock and discovering some happy drugs, she concludes that they are only smugglers. Sarah believes that perhaps her kid saw something during the conversation, which is why they took him to silence him, and the two of them head back to the guest room with a suitcase. Now that she has this notion, Sarah wants to meet with the police to turn up the narcotics, but Irina stops her, saying that she won't be able to leave the building if she does. A knock on the door breaks up the intense argument between the two. Two Russian assassins stormed through the door and attacked Irina as she went to check. Fortunately, Sarah is nearby, so she begins to battle one of them. Sadly, she suffers a brief relapse after being hit in the face. She swiftly jumps back up and knocks down the first guy using her close-quarters fighting skills. The second man is burned by Irina's improvised flamethrower, which enables Sarah to remove him. As Sarah tries to follow up with Irina, Donovan corners her and gives her a tranquilizer injection, which makes her faint. Sarah awakens to see that she is strapped to a bed. She starts telling Deborah about everything right away, including the run-in with Irina. Deborah responds that she worries for her and that her mother called earlier to inform her that Sarah suffers from a medical problem that makes her delusions worse. She asserts that neither Sarah's claims of being with her son nor her run-in with Irina were true. Sarah doesn't think this is real, so she asks to see at least the video to support her claims. When Kink gives her the video, it simply shows her by herself, pacing the building and assaulting a security officer. Deborah informs her that all will be addressed when the German police arrive in the morning, suggesting that perhaps she is only having hallucinations. When she awakens a second time, Irina is posing as a staff member in an attempt to free her as she slips back into a trance. Now questioning whether she's real, Sarah wonders. Irina informs her about her past to establish her authenticity. In the past, they were Belarus' wealthiest family. Her father was a government figure and a notorious criminal who had engaged in money laundering. His prior group was frightened when he changed parties, and they ultimately killed him. She would have also been assassinated if she hadn't managed to go to the American embassy in Minsk with the CIA's assistance. All of the proof is on the thumb drive she has been concealing, and the Russian agents want it returned. She's been confined there for months now, and she realized something wasn't right when Donovan recently arrived to ask for her passports. Irina must attempt to harm herself in order to illustrate her case because Sarah still doesn't think she's genuine, despite the evidence on the camera tape. In order to avoid being seen by security cameras, Sarah stops her, and they ultimately exit the room through the window. They survive in a crowded area without anybody noticing until they arrive in a conference room. Using their internet connection, Irina is able to send a message to the embassy in the hopes that the owner of the duffel bag will come and get it. Jumer notifies them shortly after, requesting that they meet. Since the cafeteria is the last place they would expect to find each other, they decide to meet there. They meet with the owner, who says he will take her to see her kid as soon as he receives his package. Sarah realizes something is wrong at that point and comes to the conclusion that he is lying and is unaware of her son's whereabouts. Because he has a high security clearance, she asks him to assist her find her son. She requires a key card that gives her complete access to the facility and a floor plan of the compound because she works as an IT staff member for the consulate. He instructs her to meet in the men's room in 20 minutes if he wishes to get the bag. Sarah sees Kink and his daughter across the cafeteria at that precise moment, but they lose the camera signals, so he is quickly brought into the monitoring room. He promises to return his daughter's walkie-talkie after this is all done, but he leaves swiftly without realizing he left it there. The IT specialist informs Sarah in the men's restroom that he has successfully installed malware on their server and that they have 1 hour to do as they like before the cameras are turned back on. Since he needs to explain to his superiors how Sarah obtained his keycard, they offer him the bag in exchange for him giving her the floor map and the keycard. To give the impression that she attacked him for it, she gives him a punch. The two go to Josh's workplace and begin looking through his computer because Donovan is the closest they can locate him. They are taken aback when they discover a number of documents that contain every aspect of Sarah's journey to the consulate. As it happens, everything was prearranged. They choose to investigate the backgrounds of the consulate's higher-ups and discover that Kink served as a regional specialist in Islamabad, Pakistan, and as a military officer who fought in Afghanistan. This indicates that the video she initially received on her phone is attempting to communicate with her. To get further information, Sarah chooses to give the reporter who sent her the video a call. She's informed by the journalist that Kink was a dishonest specialist who consistently escapes punishment for his actions. According to his latest source, Kink is to blame for the assault in Afghanistan that killed 8 soldiers, including her husband. They quickly download a crisper screenshot of Kink with a terrorist since they are too busy talking to see Donovan is already on his way to the office. In order to get out of the office, Sarah rushes to attack Donovan. Notwithstanding Donovan's pursuit, they escape through a gap that leads to the consulate building's roof. Irina recalls seeing the man with Kink during the battle in Afghanistan, but he was allegedly dead. This helps to clarify the picture of the Islamabad incident. When Kink learns that Sarah has received the emails, he takes action to support her. Sarah informs Irina that she can hide in the back of the truck and use that to get away from the consulate while she diverts the armed troops at the warehouse. Irina has an opportunity to reach the truck as Sarah rushes to take over a van. She needs to operate the ventilation systems after she crashes the van due to a hail of gunfire. She attempts to gather her breath after fending off a few security guards, but Kink attacks her. Before they tumble into the swimming pool, he strikes her multiple times. Sarah escapes his grasp as he attempts to drown her, and Kink pursues her. She demands to know where her son is and locates his revolver, pointing it at him. Kink acknowledges having her son and says he's doing well right now. Sarah then admits that she is aware of his plot with an Islamabad terrorist and wonders why he abducted him. To fit in, she alters her attire. She crafts a homemade explosion that explodes on one of the floors, with just 4 minutes left before the server returns. Deborah learns of this incident and gives Kink instructions to adhere to military protocol. Kink dispatches his soldiers to track down Sarah and immediately shoot her. After the building's civilian occupants are promptly evacuated, Sarah locates Kink's daughter, Aylin. She leads her to believe that her father sent her to look after her by showing her the walkie-talkie they left behind. Sarah phones Kink to let him know where they are. When Kink reaches the opposite side of the safe chamber, Sarah instructs him to retrieve his daughter. Finally, he must confess to his crimes, and they must have a conversation. The safe can only be accessed from the inside due to its reinforced steel construction, she continues, and blowing it up would put his daughter in danger. They wouldn't be able to drill it because they would run out of oxygen before they finished. He should show his son to his daughter if he hopes to see her alive. Deborah attempts to talk her into letting the young girl go, but Sarah says she doesn't know what Kink is keeping from them. She talks to Kink and begs him to bring her son to her, but he refuses to comply. Sarah, unable to bear to keep a young girl as a captive, agrees to release her in exchange for Kink meeting her in the safe room to have a conversation. Following the conversation, Sarah implores Kink to keep a secret by saying she doesn't mind losing her life. She merely asks that he at least let his son go and bring him to his mother. Instead, Kink switches off the intercom so that they are not audible to others outside. Sarah learns from him that she wasn't meant to get this far. In order for her to visit the embassy, he adds, they were the ones who secured her a job in America. They misjudged her, even though everything was going as planned. He had to abduct her son and remove the video from the camera after she killed the 2 assassins who were meant to take her and Irina out to the guest room. This made it appear as though she was insane, which was the ideal scapegoat to blame for the political refugee's death. As the sole observer of the event in Afghanistan, Sarah concludes that he can simply murder her while she is evading capture. To give the impression that she was responsible for Irina's murder, that is why he originally wanted her here. After shooting her, he delivers the pistol to her and then shoots himself. Screaming that she has his gun, he scrambles out of the safe room. She remembers the time she was in Afghanistan with her husband, and her life flashes before her eyes as she loses so much blood. Before they were attacked, the mission was proceeding as planned, and everyone died that day except for her. In fact, she perseveres and makes it to the door before it is torn to shreds. As it happens, she had been recording her chat with Kink all along, and she plays it over the intercom so that everyone can hear it. As a result, Kink is arrested and Donovan flees. After a team is dispatched to save Josh, Sarah eventually gets to see her son again,